Clark Center for the Arts. For those of you like me who it's our first time being here, it's interesting to note that after the colonization of these lands, this site was granted to American loyalists in the 18th century. Then in 1932, the Guild of All Arts was founded here, and the Guild had studios in fine art and craft. They had a tea room. The studios included painting, sculpture, handloom weaving, tooled leather, ceramics, metalwork, wood carving, and batik. So considering the history of colonial art being created here, it is an honor to introduce to you Rara, which you are all here to see today. Rara is an autobiographical story of Blessed One's journey to cultural reclamation and ancestral memory through dance and the weaving of a banig, which is Tagalog for the Filipino mat. Rara is also the Filipino word for the act of weaving a banig. This work was inspired by Blesso's weaving lineages that were disrupted by generations of colonialism, assimilation, and migration. To have you all here witnessing this work is indeed part of our collective liberation. This work was made possible by the Dance Creation Grant from the Ontario Arts Council and the Government of Ontario. And so with that, Rara. drink. Let's check in with the vibe in here. So check in with how you're feeling. How are you feeling? And if there's one word to honor your feeling right now, what is that word? I'll start with here.
Proud.
What's that?
Proud.
Proud. What else were you feeling here today? Connected.
Power.
Power.
Grace.
Peace.
Grace.
Grace.
Journey.
Journey.
Proud is also.
Proud as well. Here.
Independence.
Independence. Thank you.
Gratitude.
Gratitude and joyful. Uplifted. Uplifted. How about here? What are you feeling here? Love. Graceful. Graceful. How are you feeling? Good. Cathartic. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. And we will move into our Q&A. All right. So, congratulations.
Thank you, Teresa.
So, first and foremost, I have to ask, because it has been quite a long journey to get to today. How are you feeling right now?
I need to defrost from the terrified mode. So I actually feel very grateful to have such a beautiful group here to witness the hard work that was Rara. It's very vulnerable work, so I'm just grateful to be able to create this way and be witnessed with the right people in the room. So grateful.
Thank you. Now, when did the process of creating and researching Rara begin?
Particularly with Rara, it started in, I think, 2021. And I was very unwell. And I was unwell for like almost 2 years. So I've been having the pull for ancestral collaboration since I was a child. And then when we started dancing with Hatao and doing all this work and, you know, being familiar with friends that are doing this work, then it just got stronger and stronger, and with the internet and all that stuff. But 2021 was the marker when I learned about the book Rara, which translates to Wiwa Banig. And that's a reference book that you can only get in the Philippines and maybe some vendors in the States. So I ordered the book and just read it front to back. And yeah, and then I just kept going and going and going, and then I found myself always playing with raffia, and then I bought my first banig. I've never had a banig. You'd think that I would have a banig after all this time. I'm 45. My very own banig, the proper banig, I bought from the Philippines, this round one. And when it came out, I cried. I just cried. I just like literally ugly cried on the banig. So there was some kind of, there was some kind of calling or like a gap that I had to fill. And then as I'm talking about the banig and showing the books, my parents are like, oh, by the way, your great grandmother is Waray, who is from Leyte. They're Samar, so this particular banig is from Samar. They weave them in the caves. And they're known for their intricate round weaving. It's very fine by teacup grass, dried grass, and they embroider it. So my ancestry comes from there. And then my dad says, oh, by the way, he's from Zambales and Luzon, where the Aitas are, another tribe. And he said, I used to hate it when my Lola would force me to get the pandan leaves, you died, and dye them. We have to dye them different colors because then she has to weave it, and then she has to do it fast because then she sells it, and then that's the food to eat. And I was like, wow. So sometimes your own artistic creative research for your own healing spurs very hidden and latent ancestral knowledge that wouldn't otherwise come out. So that's how it started in 2021. And then it just kind of snowballed into the dance work.
Now, during this whole process of creating, did anything surprise you?
The thing that really surprised me is I have sensitive hands. So just the charge, the energetic charge that these materials have. So when I did the research on the banig, it is about harvesting the pandanus leaf or the teacock leaves. Then you dry them, then you strip them, then you strip them further, then you dye them, then you weave them. So the different things that I found have always been synchronous. I was in Kensington Market, went to, what's that place between Tapfong and Plater Place? Anyway, on the corner in Kensington, on Dundas. I go in, and they had these giant fans, spade fans. And there was a voice, and it said, get them. This was in 2021. So there was no dance. There was a voice saying, get them. And I'm like, why? What am I going to do with these? I'm really not feeling well, and all I do is lie down all day. And then I bought them and it said made in the Philippines. And then I was like, oh, this is the palm on the tree before they stripped it into this, right? And so just like that is the kind of curious way that I've been co-creating with spirit and ancestors and finding my art supplies and my ancestral materials in Toronto, actually. Aside from the banig, which I had to import here, this barong, 70s barong, I got in a vintage store in Leslieville at Second Voyage. It's got a butterfly collar. It was in with the 70s butterfly collar shirts. And it was like, that's a vintage barong. And he knew it. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, that's a surprising thing. It's like, I am not planning it. It just so happens. And then it culminates to the work. That was surprising.
Now, I'm already learning just from the last 5 minutes
Oh my God.
of you sharing.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in particular that you want to share with us in terms of what you've learned about your ancestry and Filipino culture just since 2021?
Yeah, so like learning that, so my parents, a lot of people say in Toronto, why don't you know Tagalog? Well, my parents aren't Tagalogs. So now I know the answer is like, literally my parents aren't Tagalogs, but also they didn't teach me Tagalog and they didn't teach me their dialect either. So, but the thing is to assume that a lot of Filipinos are from Manila or Tagalogs is not, it's a limited way of seeing the Filipino. And my dad is from Zambales, which is in Luzon. They speak Sambal. He's from a part of Zambales where there are Aita, the black Filipino tribe. I have Aita ancestry, less than 5 generations back. And everyone in Zambales, they mix, so they speak the same dialect. My mom is from Zamboanga City in Mindanao. Mindanao is mostly known for Muslim culture. In Zamboanga City, they speak Chabacano, which is the only Asian Creole. I can understand that because I have one hand. It's very Spanish. It's very colonized. A lot of them are mestiza. My mom is a mestiza. But then I find out that they didn't originate there. They originate on the maternal side from Leyte, Samar. So what I learned about my ancestry, a lot of Filipinos just think they're just from one place. There's inter-island migration. So not only have I lost languages from Zambales and Zamboanga City, my mom has lost language, Waray. She can't speak that. But she can speak Tausug. She can speak Tausug because it's the neighboring. She went to school in Holo, so she can speak with the Muslim kids. There's a tribe that Ken Kumar learns the Pangalay, that dance, the fingernails, Tausug. So it's very interesting, and I don't find those out until literally last minute. Just conversationally. If they see something visually, it sparks a memory. Sometimes we don't even know what to ask. So that's kind of like the ancestry, it's endless, you just never know,
Thank you. Now, interesting to note that this creation was a co-creation. And so for the last while, Blessels actually invited other Filipino movement artists to co-create with you, and even invited myself and Jasper once to go to the School of Ballet to move to music with you. So I'd like to know, why has it been so important to co-create with Kapwa?
So Kapwa is the pre-Spanish, pre-colonial concept of psychology where we relate reciprocally between people, the cosmos, and nature. And it's a way of being. It's a vibe. It's a vibe. It's not performative. It's the way you walk and talk and breathe and share and everything, right? So this form of dance practice where I'm asking to collaborate with other dancers not necessarily from a commercial or classical dance background, dancers from different ethnic and land-based backgrounds and musicalities, and even weaving. Caroline Apilado's sound of the loom with the heartbeat was used. That's kapwa, because we're both trying to reclaim our ways of weaving and culture. And it just kind of rounds it out. It was a way of decolonizing my dance background, coming from the typical westernized studio practice from the age of 4, and having that all ingrained of every dancer to themselves, and casting and all of those horrible things that can kind of, what do you call it? Deter your creativity. So this was helping me create a safe space, being in alignment with that.
Thank you. Now you mentioned Carol Ann's works. Can you talk a bit more about the use of Carol Ann's weaving sounds and the heartbeats in your performance?
So Carol Ann, I met her still less than a year. Oh my gosh. Wow, our friendship has soared in less than 12 months. So I did a private class, workshop with Carol Ann, because she is Ilocana, so a place in northern Luzon, and they do a particular weave, a binakol weave called pusikus, which has these orbs repeated, which are in the shape of either the wind or the whirlpool, right? And it's supposed to reflect nature or to scare the bad spirits. So Carol Ann knows how slow my brain was that day. So she knows like the process of sometimes when I'm not feeling well. And then she had an arts residency recently, and I was watching all her stories, and I just said, "Oh, do you have a soundbite of you weaving?" Just so happened she did, and she sent it over. And then I asked Ryan to help me overlay it with the heartbeat, because when you watch the weavers in the weaving house, their babies are there. Sometimes the weaver is pregnant, sometimes they're hanging from another weave, like in a lullaby story. Okay? So it's almost like, because also I'm listening to Carol Ann, I don't know what the loom is going to like create that beat. It's almost like this anticipatory, like listening to the mother. What is she doing? And like Carol Ann is also trying to figure it out. So you sometimes hear her hesitance as she's trying to figure out it's not like a machine. The pacing is, she's present with it. So it was kind of thinking of like that section, I was reweaving my own etheric banig in the diaspora, but also kind of listening to Carol Ann as kapwa, but also the mother, as almost like I'm in a womb state, listening to the heartbeat, listening to both rhythms kind of converge as it's birthing a new reality.
Yeah, it was very powerful to just feel the vibes and have them echo into these walls. And so that segues into, why is it so significant to do this work in progress in this space here at the Clark Center for Arts?
I grew up in Scarborough, truly, like since the age of 2. I grew up in West Hill, Morningside and Lawrence. And I remember as a kid, we would come here, and then they're like, "Oh, what's the Guild?" "Oh, the Guild is where the artists used to get," and I would imagine like the Smurfs, because I'm an 80s child. Like there's one Smurf with the loom and another Smurf with a paintbrush. I was like, "Is this what a guild is?" You know? But it's like you just see like these doorways. It was like, it doesn't make sense. I didn't know that, like I just heard the history of it. And then as a teen, this would be my running route. So being here in Scarborough, and I know that in my professional career as a chiropractor and going through institutions, education, you know, higher learning, when I say I'm from Scarborough, the face drops. And they say, "You're from the ghetto, right?" And then they say the most racist, add the expletive stuff to me. And so for a while, I would say, "I'm from Toronto." Listen, Scarborough is very different. It's in the under umbrella of Toronto, but the people from Scarborough is, it's a diverse, area. We keep it real, and we're right by the land, we're right by the lake. Lake Ontario is where the Indigenous people would gather their plant medicines. So being here at the Clark has been kind of full circle as a settler, as a first generation Filipino Canadian, but also kind of parallel with the healing of the shame of identities, of belonging, and just trying to see, do something different,
Thank you. At this time, we'll open up the floor for questions from you, including the kids.
How did
you, what was your process for finding the vocabulary that you used to, I guess, express what you processed through your journey of learning your culture?
Yeah, so Diana Reyes, her question is, how did I find the vocabulary to express the journey of reclaiming culture? Yeah, it's through reading, and like Eric Solano from Parangal Dance, it sounds similar. Parangal Dance, I would talk to him. He's in San Francisco, he's an artistic director there. So actually, when he saw that I was dancing with the raffia pom-poms, that came to me intuitively. And he DM'd me and he said, Blasel, be careful when you're dancing with the palaspas. I said, what's palaspas? He's like, those palm things. The strip poke, he's like, that's what the shamans use when they're evoking, when they're doing ritual in the Visayas area. But they do it with the coconut, they strip the coconut palm. And I notice when I do dance with it, I do channel. So he just said, be careful. So there's certain things like he would teach me some Visayan words. And then also the book Rara was very, very helpful. And then also learning to write Babayin. So Babayin is the pre-colonial script before the alphabet that the Spanish imposed on the Philippines. So breaking down on how to spell my name in Babayin, how the consonants are, and spelling the different parts of the harvesting of the banig and all that stuff. And then just talking to people and watching shows and just observing has helped. And there's still a lot more I need to learn.
And you had the banig and you were looking through it. That part really struck me. What did that movement represent? Was it like the banig is like a shield, or was it like you're looking like a kind of a vision? Like what did that mean?
Oh, wow. Thank you, Candice. Candice was asking when I was looking through the banig, what did that represent for me, like the whole spine through? You know, I kind of did it. I was just kind of compelled to do it. So it's up to how you want to interpret. Yeah. But I would say it's really like, you know, I see the hole in my banig, which is something that's very distressing because I don't know how to repair it. And it's just almost like, it's like a portal. Like you're peeking through the possibilities of a new way of being, from being asleep to now being awake.
Okay.
From your rehearsals to performing here today, is there an energy that has stayed with you that's woven to help you in your presentation today?
So Kay is asking, since the beginning of creation rehearsals, yeah, to today, has there been a presence that has been with me? Yeah, like I always fear that people will think that I have voices that live in my head, but it's like a voice. There is a voice that I do listen to. Like even when I have my paintings, like I'm an artist in residence here at the Clark too. So the paintings that I work on, a lot of times I just start on a blank canvas and I just co-create with. That's my higher self or ancestors or whatever it is. But there is like, what's new is being in co-creation with an unknown. So it's a lot of that intuitive voice that comes up, like, buy that fan, I can't tell you why, but do it, stuff like that. And then it just kind of all layers and comes together. But I'm very impatient, so I get frustrated and I was like, this makes no sense, and then it's like, why am I hoarding all this straw, so it's like, and then it's like, oh, I need it, so it's, that's what's been very heightened, and I've been nurturing that.
Well, thank you. Witness.
I think we have time for one more question. Rizal.
Was there a clear idea of the story in your mind, or did you just like go with the flow?
I love that question, Rizal. Rizal asked, was there a clear story in mind, or did I go with the flow? Yep, there was a clear story, but see, this is where I get really frustrated. And B. Palomina here, Tita B, will tell you, as an outside eye, it was very challenging in rehearsals because there, on the one hand, I had a very rigid story to tell. And then on the other hand, there were areas where I was channeling, which is improvisational. So this was a very different choreography in the sense that every time I do it, there's a little bit of a change. So I had to use a little, like a skeleton. So when you write a story, you start off with a skeleton of ideas, beginning and end. You do the setting, right? And you have a character and then a change in the storyline. So that was there as a guide, a loose guide where the story was, I find a hole in my banig and I want to know how can I make a new one? How do I learn to create my own weave? So that was it. So it's kind of a little bit of both. Does that help?
Yeah. Wait, actually, one more question. What's this for?
Yeah, so before I started the show, you see that abalone shell there, the shiny one with the burned leaves? That is guava leaves. I'm going to mispronounce the accent. Bayabas? Bayabas. Bayabas. So this is, you can pass it around. So burned guava leaves, can you pass that, Jasper? It's like, you know how people, the indigenous people here in Canada, they smudge with sage? Filipinos smudge with bayabas. So the set was also acting as an altar, so I made sure to smudge before the audience arrived, so we have all good energy in here. And then I have some rice on a shell and a painted shell that I tattooed another shell. And then I have dried, okay, see if I'm going to pronounce this right. Anahao? Anahao. See, this is how I'm learning vocabulary. Anahao leaves that I unfortunately killed that plant, but kept the leaves. And then I found out, well, that's another funny story. I had to buy that plant. This plant was sold just across the street from my house. It is not a Filipino store. I buy this thing, I'm so compelled. And then I find out it's the national leaf of the Philippines. Who knew? So just so you know, like these are the funny things that happen in my journey here.
Well, thank you everybody for your questions. And I think some next steps.
Yep. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming as a witness. I want to thank all of my collaborators, B. Palomina with my outside eye, Carolina Pilato provided the loom sounds, Andrea Mapili, who's not here, was my dramaturge, Eric Solano of Pangalay Dance. Why am I doing that? Parangal. Parang. Dance is in San Francisco. We're touring somewhere. Tala Kamena Burks designed this dress, this skirt. Jasa Sulit, who emceed and did the Q&A. Ryan Wan, who did the video and the projection, and he does it unwillingly and willingly. And my children, the girls who checked in the guests, Leigh and Ciel Wan. And Ty and Miguel Juan for taking care of little Jasper and making sure everything was good. And all of my friends here, all of the collaborators that were there during my residencies at TUT and National Ballet of Canada to help me with this workshopping up until today. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. I will be having another show here on August 10th. I have a solo exhibit called Kapwa Kaleidoscope. That's the opening party here. I'll have all 3 floors of my paintings. I'm willing to open my studio, my little studio, if any of you want to take a peek at what that is. But otherwise, I'm really grateful to see you all for the support, because this stuff is terrifying, y'all. It is terrifying. Romanos. But he does, you're not terrified anymore. No. I'm so terrified. Okay, it's never-ending terrifying things. But I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. And yeah, thank you so much.